G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so good to see you. I do hope you are super well. Today I've got some really exciting news. This is a development announcement of something that I think is a first for the mirrorless camera industry. And that is, we now have a lens, and this is a lens from Tamron, which is across 4 of the major lens mounts. That includes Sony E, Fuji X, Nikon Z, and Canon RF. And I suppose Canon is the biggest deal in all of this because it has the least number of third-party lenses. And what is this lens? Well, this is a lens that first came out in late 2021. It is the 18-300. It was very well received at the time, but of course, zooms, and especially super zooms, there is a limit to their optical excellence, of course. In the case of this lens, it is an 18-300. That's an enormous amount of range, and it's actually a 16.6 times zoom. Huge. And thus, this lens allows for so much flexibility. Now, this is an APS-C lens, so that 18-300 is actually a 27-450 millimeter field of view equivalent when you are on the Z mount. And the interesting thing about Canon is that their APS-C is actually a 1.6 times crop versus the 1.5 times crop that we find on the Z, the E, and on the X mount. And so this changes the field of view equivalency from that 27-450 to 28.8, or I'm just going to call it 29 millimeters, all the way out to 480 millimeters field of view equivalent when you mount this lens to an RF mount APS-C camera. When cropping a full frame Canon camera to its APS-C, that's also a 1.6 times crop. So this is the field of view you're going to see on Canon when mounting this lens on an APS-C sensor or a full frame sensor when cropped to APS-C. Now let's talk a little bit more about the lens. Yes, it's been out for 3.5 to 4 years on E and X mount. It has been very well reviewed, sitting in around the 3.5 to 4.5 star mark, depending on which review sites you're looking at. It is a super zoom and it is very affordable. The current pricing for this lens for the E-mount version is around $1,000 to $1,100 here in Australia, and it is $699 US. And thus, I would expect that the Z mount and RF mount versions do come out around a similar price. They may well have a little bit of a premium on them, and of course, those lenses are new versus the Sony one now being 3 to 4 years old. And thus, maybe we can expect something in the order of a 5 to 10% differential. The other thing that I want to stress here with this worldwide development announcement that is coming with these lenses, and today is the worldwide development announcement, is that these lenses are official. They are officially sanctioned by both Canon and Nikon, and they are both officially under license. And what that means is, from a firmware perspective, you've absolutely never got anything you need to worry about with these lenses. They will always continue to work properly and correctly with the Z and RF mount. And who is this lens aimed at? What are its best use cases? Well, of course, this works for travel. It works for families, landscape, portraiture. But also this lens is amazing close up. It can get as close as 15 centimeters when it is wide. And thus, it makes this lens a very versatile companion to those that want to travel light and travel small and just have one lens that can cover a really wide range of scenarios. Now, the only thing that you might want to think about with a lens like this, 18-300, that its aperture range is 3.5 to 6.3. So it does get a little bit darker as you get towards the long end. And of course, it's all in this one very small and light package. Now, to have so much in such a small package does mean that you don't get optical perfection, but of course, That is the way it works in this industry. If you want optical perfection, then you use a lens like we're using here today, which is the 35mm 1.2. But this lens is something like 4 times the price, 2 times the size, twice the weight. And yes, it's a 35mm. It just does that brilliantly. This lens, it does 18mm all the way through to 300mm. That's enormous. And what some people want, they want to be able to cover everything in just one small package, never changing lenses, never having to worry about anything else. And that is what the Tamron 18-300 on the APS-C size sensor is absolutely fantastic for. And of course, this lens has a 1:2 magnification ratio. And let's not forget, for a lot of APS-C cameras, whether you're on E, X, Z or RF mount, many APS-C bodies do not have in-body image stabilisation, and this lens comes with vibration control. It is a VC lens. Now, before we get too far into this, to me, it is very exciting the fact that this lens is now across 4 mounts, 4 different mounts from the one lens. This might actually be a first for a company the size of Tamron, which is similar to talking about, say, Sigma or any of the OEM, the first-party manufacturers. Tamron are huge. They make an enormous number of lenses for the world. And is this a first for mirrorless, that we have Tamron, this lens, across so many mounts? I think it might be. Of course, the first 2 came 3.5 or so years ago, and now we have the Z and the RF mount. And I think what's really exciting for RF users is that we're seeing another lens arrive for Canon, when of course it was just a couple of years ago that they made the decision to close their mount from third parties, and then more recently they have opened the mount up again, and that's just a wonderful thing for Canon users. Canon currently still being the most closed mounts of all the mounts that we have today. Even the L-Mount, we're starting to see more lenses come from third-party manufacturers, including those from China and other parts of Asia. This is a good thing for everybody, and I love the idea that you can now really, besides L-Mount, you can now stick this lens on any of the popular brands. And I'd like to thank Tamron and Tamron's distributor here in Australia, Blonde Robot, for letting me know about this worldwide development announcement, which I think is really important for the industry as a whole, which is why I thought it was worth making a video about it. This lens is not going to arrive until the winter here in Australia or the summer in the Northern Hemisphere. So my guess is it's still something like 2 to 3 months away, but coming soon. And for people that might want to pop this on their Z50 or their Sony 6500, on any of the multitudinous X mount cameras from Fuji, and of course cameras like the R10 or the R7 from Canon. Here it is now, and it doesn't really matter which mount you're in. And now that I think about it, does the L-Mount have any APS-C cameras? Maybe not really very many. All right, everybody, well, as usual, it's been fantastic to see you. Please do let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the arrival of the Tamron 18-300, 3.5 to 6.3, now across 4 of the most popular mounts. It's pretty exciting. All right, it's been so good to see you, and if this is your first time here, I would love to see you again, so please do subscribe, please share, and please like. All right, bye for now.